connection with the community and make sure that I get you informed of some things that are important to be informed. Today's program is going to be a little special. I'm going to tell you about some things that are happening in our city, and then we're going to have a special guest. As many of you know, or you should know, tomorrow is Father's Day, and there's going to be a special event tomorrow taking place here in the city, and I have with me Chuck Hicks, who is the coordinator for that event, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about the logistics of the event. In case you want to come and join us, it's going to be a citywide effort to get all the fathers and their friends, everybody in between, to come and join together in this community event. But Chuck Hicks is going to tell you all about it in a few minutes. Chuck is here and online with us. Let me go ahead and see so that you can see. How you doing, Chuck?
I am good. How are you?
Wonderful. Well, bear with us a little bit longer. Let me just go through some important news that I wanted to share with people here. I wanted to just make sure that people know. A lot of you are seeing how, let me show you some of these COVID-19 cases so that you can see that we're still very much in a pandemic. Let me move that over. I just pulled those numbers from the internet a few minutes ago, and they don't look good. So we need to continue to adhere to the protocol. Make sure that when you are out in public, that you continue to wear your masks. Make sure that you wash your hands frequently, so that we can get through with this. Let me also recognize the folks watching us on Facebook. And we're also being broadcasting in YouTube. So please hit the subscribe button if you're watching the show, and also on Twitter. So let me go ahead and continue to talk a little bit about this. Now, in Washington, D.C., the mayor has announced that we will be moving to phase number 2 next week. And so this is important for us, because what that will mean is that we'll have more access. So, for example, the restaurants are now going to be able to enjoy indoor, or the clients are going to be able to enjoy indoor dining with the limited capacity. The recreation centers are going to be opening more resources. And so a lot of more things are going to happen now. And so, but I just want to make sure that people continue to wear masks. We are very distraught with this idea that President Trump is hosting a major indoor rally today in the state of Oklahoma. And this is such a bad timing to do this. We don't think it's a good idea. The health experts are saying this is a bad idea. Many of the state officials believe it's a bad idea, and for the president, who should be setting the tone, providing an example, for him to be hosting an event. And if you look at the news right now, the live feed from the different medias, you can see a lot of people are not practicing social distance because they're basically sitting next to each other. So certainly no 6 feet apart, and the majority of them are on mask. And so this is just a terrible message that's been sent throughout the nation. And I hope that the president would just change his mind so that we can get this pandemic under control. We're seeing at least, I don't know how many states, but a number of states are seeing spikes as much as 50% or more in infection rates. And so the only way to combat that is to adhere to the protocol, to follow science, which includes, without a doubt, wearing a face mask, and continue to wash your hands as frequently as you can. So let me also share with you some additional news that I wanted to share, and that is that next Friday, on the 26th of June, the House of Representatives will have a vote on DC statehood. And for those of you who know how passionate we are here in the District of Columbia about DC statehood, this is an important milestone for us. Now, we know that DC statehood won't become a reality in this 116th Congress, because for that to happen, it has to pass both houses. So we know we have secured enough votes in the House of Representatives, but we also know that the bill will not be introduced in the Senate. And for this statehood to take place, it needs to go by both houses, both chambers of the U.S. Congress. And that will not happen because we know that the majority leader, Mitch McConnell, has already said that he will not bring that bill, the Senate bill, to the Senate floor. But we nevertheless are very excited. It is a history in the making for us. The last time this statehood had a vote on the House floor was in 1993, shortly after Delegate Norton came and got seated to that seat, to the delegate seat. She introduced that bill. It did not pass the House of Representatives. We believe and understand that the outcome is going to be different this time, that we're in fact going to have a bill passed. So very excited about that. I hope to provide more information to you as it becomes available. The other thing I wanted to share, let me just show you real quick here. In the 116th Congress, we have 225 co-sponsors. That number grew up a little bit. This is the number from 2 days ago. So we actually had the fellow from the state of Maryland who actually joined. So it's 225. And the companion bill, this is the House bill, H.R. 51. And this is the bill that is going to be hitting the floor next Friday in the U.S. Congress, the House of Representatives. The companion bill, S631, that you're seeing here on the screen, that bill will not see the Senate floor because Mitch McConnell has said that he is not going to support the socialist agenda that the Democrats have, and therefore he will not bring a bill to the Senate floor. But that we're actually growing in numbers. We currently have 39 co-sponsors, all Democrats. The other thing I wanted to share with you is this other bill. There's a bill in Congress called H.R. 40. Now that's the name of that bill is the Commission to Study and Develop Reparation Proposals for African American Act. Yesterday was Juneteenth, and I had the opportunity to address a crowd at a small rally, and I talked a little bit about what H.R. 40 is about. So when we think about, right now we're seeking change everywhere, right? And when we think about change and we think about helping communities, specifically the African American community, because we've seen, for example, in the case of COVID-19, how the African American community has been hurt the most because of the health disparity that exists. We also see the situation in housing, we see it in employment, we see it in education, we see it across the spectrum. And the way to correct a lot of that, when we talk about defunding the police, yes, we're outraged about the treatment of police officers of African American, specifically young African Americans, but we're talking about defunding so that we can get that money into the African American community and other deprived communities. And so H.R. 40, let me put that bill on the screen again. H.R. 40 is going to address reparations for African Americans. Now, this is money that is owed to African Americans since 1865, when they were promised the famous phrase you all remember, the 40 acres and a mule. Well, that never materialized. And that's what H.R. 40 is going to do. This is a bill that was introduced in the 116th Congress by Congresswoman from Texas, Sheila Jackson Lee, and it currently has 127 co-sponsors, all Democrats also. And what this is going to do is it's not going to give anybody any money right away, but it'll set up a commission that will study the entire situation. Remember that African Americans pretty much provided free labor for hundreds of years, and they have never been compensated. When in the District of Columbia, before the Emancipation Proclamation was issued nationwide, we actually emancipated the slaves, about 3,100 in the District of Columbia, and that was called a compensated. Emancipation Proclamation, because instead of giving money to the enslaved people, the people that have worked for free, we compensated the slave owners. And so in 1865, there was a promise to correct that and to compensate the slaves, and that never happened. And so this is exactly what H.R. 40 is going to do. So I am hoping that now that we're seeking change, and we're seeing all these young people, in fact, put their lives at risk for change, we're hoping that we can educate them about H.R. 40 so that before this Congress, this 116th Congress is over, we can get a lot more co-sponsors and hopefully enough to vote it on the House floor. Now, I have said that supporters or co-sponsors of H.R. 51, which is the bill to get D.C. statehood, those folks are natural allies for H.R. 40. So I, as the U.S. Shadow Representative, will start reaching out to every member who has co-sponsored H.R. 51 and ask them to also co-sponsor H.R. 40. There's some that are there, but not all of them. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is Daca. You all heard there were two major Supreme Court decisions that took place last week, the week that just went by. One of them was this decision. If you all remember, Daca was an executive order put out by President Obama because we could never get agreement to pass the DREAM Act. Now, the DREAM Act was a bill first introduced by Dick Durbin from Illinois back in the early 2000s. And at the beginning, the DREAM Act, which is a legislation that will allow young people that came into this country and are currently undocumented, but they have been here pretty much all of their lives, and this is the only country they know, it would give them a path to legalizing their immigration status. And in some cases, depending on which version, currently there are a bunch of different DREAM Acts in different states because the National DREAM Act was never able to get passed. But some of them, the DREAM Act eventually will give them a path to citizenship. Now, because President Obama, was not able to get the DREAM Act passed, he issued an executive order called Daca, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. And Daca gave those same people that would have been recipients of the DREAM Act, it gave them protection under the law so that they would also be protected in terms of their legal status in the United States. Now, when President Trump was campaigning, he promised that he would get rid of Daca, and he tried. And the Supreme Court came out and said, you can't do that. And here's how that case came out. You had 5 justices that basically voted against getting rid of the DREAM Act. And so we are happy the Dreamers are now, protected a little further, a little longer. Unfortunately, the Trump administration has said that they will continue to pursue getting rid of Daca. They're not going to rest until they see Daca go away in this administration. Hopefully, this administration won't last much longer than the end of this year. But we have heard that the White House will try to get rid of Daca or try to somehow counter the decision that was made in the Supreme Court. The other case that has noise or that made a lot of people happy was the transgender community. You all remember, I actually went, I believe it was last Sunday, that I joined Ruby in D.C. at a rally when basically the Trump administration, not only during Pride Month, but on the day when it was the 4-year anniversary of the mass shooting that took place, that took the lives of, I believe, 49 members of the LGBT community. On that same day, the Trump administration decided to discriminate transgender and basically anybody that could have been interpreted as being under this clause that would have been discriminated on the basis of gender or sex. So the Obamacare had a provision. Obviously, you're not supposed to discriminate people on the basis of many things, including gender and sex. But people who, for example, when you talk about being discriminated on the basis of sex, it is understood. It was understood to be your birth sex, and there are a lot of people that don't necessarily conform to their birth sex, and that's why it had to be clarified. And so the Obama administration further clarified that it would include everybody, including transgender people who were born with one gender but consider themselves the opposite sex. And what the president, this current administration did is they got rid of that protection. And they did it on that specific date that I mentioned. And that's why we went downtown and started protesting. And the Supreme Court actually came back, and actually here's what they did. They actually, it was a little shocking to a lot of people. In the decision 6-3, let me put this decision. Here it is, 6-3. The court ruled that the Civil Rights Act of 1964 protects gay and transgender workers from workplace discrimination. So that's very, very important, this decision for the LGBTQ community overall. So we were very, very pleased to see that this the Supreme Court actually made that decision, and especially during this month, Pride Month. We know that at this time, around this time, we would be downtown at a parade, or other communities would be hosting parades and all kinds of celebrations, and we're not able to do that because of the pandemic. So we're happy that the community can share in some good news. Now let's go and talk about what our guest is here for, and that is Black Fathers Matters. Let me put this for you on the screen so you can see. This is a flyer that it's been circulating now for this event. And let me see if I can get Chuck Hicks back online. Are you there, Chuck?
Yes, I am.
All right, there we go. Here we go. Okay, Chuck. Well, we want to know, people online are listening and they're watching you, and they want to know what is it that we're doing? How are we? I know that you're trying to engage the moment and the movement and add it to fathers. And it all makes a lot of sense. How are we doing that?
Well, let me start off by talking a little bit about this history. I was watching all the protests and thinking about the many things, changes that are coming. And I said to a friend that if I was 30 years older, I'd be out there and I would be dodging tear gas and running and doing the right things in terms of supporting this. And I was saying, but there ought to be something I can do. And I thought about Father's Day coming up, and I thought about since black men have been brought into this country, we've been a target. We've been lynched, we've been castrated, we've been killed, we've just been discriminated against. We've not gotten good employment, we don't have good health, we don't have any benefits, just everything has been negative. We've been a want group of people since we've been brought into this country. And I thought about Father's Day, and I said, maybe it just might be nice for every once in a while to say that black fathers matter. And I thought about that, and I said, well, I'm going to put something together that's going to say in D.C. on Father's Day that black fathers matter. And we're going to do it for a couple of reasons. Number one, that black men need to hear every once in a while that they matter, they're important, and that they're not always seen in a negative light. And then number two, we wanted to say that black men remember the many black men who have been unarmed black men who've been killed at the home of policemen. And then we wanted to remind our people that with this virus going on, that more black men are infected and more black men die than any other group of people in this country. And that black men need to take care of themselves, and we need to be encouraging black men to do that. And so one of the things that we're going to do is we've been putting out banners that say Happy Father's Day, Black Fathers Matter, Black Lives Matter. We've been putting out signs that say Black Fathers Matter, Black Lives Matter. And we've got some ribbons that say Black Fathers Matter. And we got black balloons that were hanging all over the city that remind people of those three points that I made. And then at the African American Civil War Museum tomorrow, we're going to do a motorcade. And we're asking people to join us at the African American Civil War Museum, which is at 1629 Vermont Avenue, Northwest, right down the street from Ben's Chili Bowl. And we're going to have cars. People bring their cars, and they can decorate their cars. Or we'll have balloons and posters that they can put on their cars. And we're going to do a motorcade. We're going to start at the Civil War Museum and go through Florida Avenue we're going to go down to 8th Street, and then to Benning Road, and then over to Minnesota Avenue, and then over to Good Hope Road, and down Martin Luther King Avenue. And that is to say that we want people to decorate your cars. If you don't decorate your cars, you can come in and just ride in the motorcade. We're asking people to bring their fathers, their uncles, their brothers, their cousins, ride with their mother if they lost their father. Mothers and sons, and mothers and daughters can ride together. And it's important that we see in the city that we make the first statement, and we think that if we can catches a fire next year, other people will look at this idea and say something about Black Men Matter. And one of the reasons that we are doing, we're starting at the African American Civil War Museum, of course, is because the cost of the Civil War, the African American Civil War Museum, that's where we fought in the Civil War and got our freedom. And nobody gave it to us, but we earned our freedom. And after blacks were freed, wherever they were, they put on their glad rags and be they in Sandy Clark, Arkansas, or Magnolia, Mississippi, and they celebrated. And in Galveston, Texas, they had a huge celebration. And after World War II, it sort of died out. But when people started remembering Juneteenth, their freedom, they wanted to know when they could come back together. Many people couldn't remember the date that they were free, but they knew there was this great celebration, legal celebration in Galveston, Texas. And so they said, well, we'll celebrate on Juneteenth, on June 19th. And that's how we ended up doing June 19th as Juneteenth Day across the country. And so it becomes symbolic for us to begin that Black Fathers Matter at the Civil War Museum, because black men fought for their freedom, and they fought in horrible conditions. They didn't get equal pay. They were discriminated against. Oftentimes when they were fighting, they got shot by the people who they were fighting with. And so we've been through a struggle that nobody else has been through. And we want people to know that Black Fathers Matter. We want people to come out and show how important it is to say, you matter. Black men, you matter, you're important. And so we're asking people to join us at the African American Civil War Museum this year. And then one of the things that we're going to do after we finish doing the Black Fathers Matter is that we're going to be putting together with a whole group of community groups and organizations to ask the city to begin to look at the process of making Juneteenth a legal holiday in this city. We are impressed that in Virginia is the first place that's done that. But when we look at places like Target, is saying that that Juneteenth is going to become a legal holiday at all Target stores, and that people have a chance to take off and get paid, or they come to work and they get double time. And so we think that all these are good signs when we look at the changes that are being made. And when we talk about all the kind of systemic racism and things we are facing, let us uphold black men and say to black fathers that they matter and they are important.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for all that information, Chuck. Now, let's go ahead and remind the audience exactly what we're doing tomorrow. Tell me, let's just narrow it down to the location where we need to be tomorrow and the time and how much time it's going to take for us to be there So where is it that exactly that we need to be tomorrow?
At the African American Civil War Museum, which is at 1629 Vermont Avenue, 1925 Vermont Avenue. And we start, if you're going to decorate your cars and put balloons and things on them, we need you there between 11:30 and 12:30 to do that. At 1 o'clock, we'll be lining up, and then we'll be taking off at 1 o'clock.
Okay. And so what's the idea? The idea, so we get there, we start at 11 o'clock, say 11:30 a.m. tomorrow, and then we get started, and where are we headed?
We're headed, once again, we're going to leave the Civil War Museum and go down Florida Avenue to 8th Street, go down 8th Street to Benning Road. From Benning Road, we're going to go over to Minnesota Avenue. And from Minnesota, we're going to go over to Good Hope Road, and then from there to Martin Luther King. And those particular wards are wards 5, 7, and 8. And the reason why we're doing those wards particularly because those are the wards where more blacks are devastated than any place else in the city in terms of health disparities, in terms of jobs, in terms of education, in terms of just not having good restaurants, good stores, food. We got zone deserts over there and everything. So we want to highlight those areas. So that's one of the reasons we chose those 3 wards to go through to say we want people to be aware of the conditions there and to say that we are aware of the conditions and we want to see some changes. And one of the ways we do that is by going through saying Black Fathers Matter. And we respect you.
Wonderful. Okay, folks, so you heard it. Let me put the flyer up here. And if you want to have any more information about this, here's a flyer. It's tomorrow, Father's Day, at the Civil War Memorial Museum. That's the meeting place. And it's going to be, if you want to participate, please arrive early, 11:30. I understand, Chuck, that we're taking off at 1, you say 1 p.m.?
Right, correct.
Yeah, if you want to arrive early to help organize, but we take off at 1 p.m. and then we'll go throughout parts of the city, as Chuck mentioned.
Our goal is that we hope to have this, we end up at the Rise Center. We're expecting that this motorcade will take an hour and a half. So we are respectful of people's time. For people who then want to go out and spend time with their families, they'll have time to do that. If we start at 1, we'll be done by 2:30, 3 o'clock at the latest.
Okay, wonderful. And if you want to get more information about this, I will post at the DCiReporter website. I'll leave indications how you can get more information about this. We're going to post it on the DCiReporter's website. And I'm going to leave in the comment section a link to the URL, DCiReporter.com. You'll see plenty of information about this event there tomorrow. And remember, it's tomorrow, Father's Day. It will be, lineup starts at 11 a.m., but you can get there a little later. We take off at 1 p.m., go throughout the city about 2 hours, 1.5 hours. And then we end up where, Mr. Hicks?
At the Rise to St. Elizabeth campus.
All right, that's...
yes.
There you go. So we start...
To King Avenue.
Yes, so we start at 1 p.m. in Ward 1.
African American Civil War Museum.
And then we end up in Ward 8 at the Rice Center, right by the St. Elizabeth.
St. Elizabeth campus.
That's right. All right. Okay, Mr. Hicks, thank you so much for joining me.
And we look forward to seeing everybody there. Please just bring your friends. You don't have to decorate your car if you don't want to. Just come and ride and blow your horns and say Black Fathers Matter.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Hicks, and thank you for watching. We were happy to bring this information to you, and please go to DCiReporter.com and be sure to get some of this information. Sometimes it's a little difficult to get it all at once, but we're going to put the flyer on the DCiReporter.com website. I'm going to leave a note on the comment section. Thank you so much for watching, everybody, and have a good day, and hope to see you tomorrow, and happy Father's Day for those who I won't see tomorrow. Bye-bye.